This episode of Places She Shapes is sponsored by JAC Project Management. Lisa thought she was going to be a vet until vet school made it very clear that life had other plans. In this episode, she talks about failing early, pivoting into architecture, then pivoting again into project management at historic royal palaces, where she now helps care for some of the UK's most extraordinary historic buildings. In this New Tracks episode, Lisa reflects on purpose, authenticity, leadership, heritage, confidence, and why sometimes the wrong door teaches you how to recognise the right one.
Quiet, please.
Lisa, welcome to Places She Shapes at Abbey Road Studios. Thank you for being here. This is part of the New Tracks season. Could we start by you telling me a little bit about what you do and where you do it?
Yeah, so I'm a project manager and I work for a charity called Historic Royal Palaces. So we look after what we think are 5 of the most beautiful palaces in London and one in Northern Ireland. And we're an independent charity. And my home palace, as they say, is at the Tower of London, which is where I've been today.
Amazing.
So I'm an architect by training and by profession. But I sort of pivoted to a client-side role 2 years ago where I am now.
And which are the other palaces?
So I also get the pleasure of working at Kensington Palace. And on Monday I was at Hampton Court Palace, which is always lovely and the garden's beautiful. And we also look after Banqueting House Whitehall, which has just had a really fab refurbishment with the Rubens ceiling. And Kew Palace, which is actually in Kew Gardens. And then our sort of most recent palace that we look after is Hillsborough Castle and Gardens, which is in Northern Ireland as well.
So I was really surprised to hear that it was a charity.
Yeah, so interestingly, that's actually our biggest kind of strategic aim at the moment is to be known as a charity and to be known as a charity for everyone. So I think when people hear the Tower of London, they think we're either funded by the government or by the Crown, and we're not. You know, we generate all our own revenue, and I work in our conservation team under the Surveyor of the Fabric. So I'm a part of the team that tries to keep our palaces for another 1,000 years or so for our visitors to enjoy.
Amazing. Yeah. So can we go back to Lisa as a little girl? What were you into?
I grew up on a farm, so I'm not really, even though I live and work in London now, I'm a city girl by training, I'd say, rather than by nature. But I wanted to be a vet when I was little. So my mum was a vet, and I spent the first 19 years of my life deciding I was going to be a vet.
Okay.
And I actually went to vet school in London when I was 18, and I failed catastrophically. I think I got the worst mark out of 250 students. And I took a year out and I had the chance to come back and start again, basically. And every time I thought about coming back, I felt quite like sick and tense. And when you're kind of at that age and you haven't really had to navigate that stuff before, I didn't really understand what it meant. And my stepmother, who's wonderful, she sat me down and she said, well, maybe this isn't the right thing for you. Maybe we should think about something else. And we actually opened up the UCAS course list and we literally started at the top of the list and we worked our way down.
We didn't get very far then.
No, we got past astrophysics and I think aeronautics and I think we got to, I think it was architectural history originally. And I thought, oh, well, that sounds quite interesting. And we got to architecture and sort of went on a couple of open days and just kind of, I've fallen on my feet, I suppose. Yeah.
And what did failing that first year teach you, do you think?
I think it's taught me how it feels when it's not right. I think architecture school is grueling. It doesn't have to be, but it is grueling. It can be really challenging. You feel really emotionally and personally invested, I think. And despite sometimes feeling like, you know, it was all going wrong or something was really hard, it was not the same feeling as being at vet school and just knowing instinctively that that was the wrong fit for me. So I think it's helped me learn when something doesn't feel right and you can push hard at a door, but if it's not the right door for you, I think it feels different to when you're pushing at a door that you know will open. And it's also taught me that I can cope with failure. You know, it's the sort of, it sounds a bit cliche, but you've gotten through all the hard stuff you've gotten through. You know, it's like more hard things will come, but you've coped with them before. And I think I'm quite glad in a way that I failed big and quite early on. So I'm not quite as afraid of it now, I think.
Mm.
Yeah.
Had the subjects that you'd studied, did they lead you into architecture directly? Was that were you able
Really,
to?
no.
No,
I
quite
did.
difficult.
I did all the sciences for A level.
Sure.
But actually, I met a really amazing tutor when I did my undergraduate at Edinburgh College of Art, and I went on an open day, and it's all sort of kismet the way things work out sometimes. And I met this amazing tutor, and I said, look, this is what happened. Don't really know why I'm here. I've got all science A levels. This is a terrible idea. Obviously, you don't want me. And he went, well, come and sit down. And I said, that I'm very crafty and I used to paint in my spare time and things. And he said, well, it takes all sorts of different perspectives to build a world. And he said it would be great to have you. And he said, look, go away, do some art evening classes. You can send me your portfolio, and help me fill in some of the blanks. I think it's funny. You just have to meet the right people at the right time. But you don't have to end up where you think you're going to end up, I think, sometimes.
Yeah. What an amazing person to meet at that right time that encouraged you. Because they could easily have said, no, you haven't got the right A levels.
Well, we have too many applicants. I wouldn't bother. Yeah. And I actually don't know where I would have gone from there. I probably would have done something sciencey adjacent. But no, I feel very fortunate to get where I have been, I think. And again, moving from architectural practice to where I am now, again, was a pivot that, again, feels like a better fit.
So talk me through that.
So I've been at Historic Royal Palaces for 2 years now. I was working in quite a small architectural practice in London. I'd sort of moved into working with existing and historic buildings.
Okay.
I found it more challenging and more fulfilling. I think from an environmental perspective, we have to work with our existing buildings. Demolishing and rebuilding just isn't sustainable. And I think if you can come up with ways of kind of preserving our heritage and adapting it for reuse, I think that's the best thing that we could do. So I sort of ended up down that road anyway. And I remember thinking I wanted a change. I didn't quite know what that change was. And I was quite frustrated one day, and I spoke to my husband and I said, I just really wish someone would just give me an old house to look after. And that's all I needed to do was just, potter around and make a plan and fix up this old house. And that's what I would find fulfilling. And then by some weird fluke, I saw this job advert come up. I think it was on LinkedIn. And it was for a project manager at Historic Royal Palaces. And it was basically looking after some really big, really old houses. And I thought, well, actually, this job sounds brilliant, but I'm not a project manager.
This episode of Places She Shapes is sponsored by JAC Project Management. JAC have been delivering stunning offices, providing expert advice, honest leadership, and a can-do attitude since 1979. Project management, cost consultancy, and contract administration for office fit-out and relocation projects. JAC creates spaces where people and businesses can thrive. You can find out more at jac-group.co.uk.
And I thought, well, actually, this job sounds brilliant, but I'm not a project manager.
Yeah.
And I don't have any project management qualifications, but I've got a lot of construction experience. And I thought, well, if you don't apply, you're definitely not going to get the job. So I sort of just went for it. And and here I am. So it's been a really good pivot for me. And I thought I would miss being in practice more than I do, actually, interestingly.
Yeah. So that's two quite big pivots.
Yes. I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think some people are, maybe lucky isn't the right word, but some people follow the path they think they're going to follow. But I think being open to new things when they come up, I think can be really valuable as well.
Yeah.
And actually one of my sort of very dear friends is a professional coach, and she coaches women who want to make big pivots in their lives, who are going from one profession to another. She's a solicitor, and she was working in private practice, and she was finding it unfulfilling and just wasn't enjoying it. And she realised that actually what she wanted to do was to pivot into something else. And now she helps a lot of other women follow the same path. So she talked to me quite a lot when I was considering taking this role, and I'm really grateful for it. You know.
So what advice would you give to people that are thinking about pivoting into something else?
I think about your values. Think about what you find worthwhile in your life. And if you're thinking of pivoting, it might be because you feel like there's something missing. And I think sometimes you can have that feeling in your gut, or maybe it keeps you awake at night. But it's unpicking that and understanding what that is. For me, it was feeling like I didn't really have a sense of purpose. I was sort of doing projects, and in their own way, they were kind of, they were fulfilling. But I think the broader sense of being part of a bigger collective that's all pulling in the same direction is actually really what I was missing. So I think taking a bit of time to actually sit with the feelings and, writing just a big list of everything you love in your job, and then the things you don't love, and the things you've seen in other people's jobs that you wish you could do. And talking to people that you trust as well is a really big thing. Talking to people who know you really, really well, and talking to people who maybe don't know you quite so well. And you get really interesting feedback when you start having these conversations.
Great. Where do you think your ambition started, and what's driving it now?
It's so interesting. I suppose I am ambitious, but I don't necessarily see myself as an ambitious person. I think when I think of people who are ambitious, I don't know, I think of very kind of successful women who are very well put together.
What are you navigating at this stage of your career?
I think a work-life balance, it ebbs and flows, and I think sometimes throwing yourself into your work can be really helpful. But I think coupled with actually where I want my professional life to go, now that I've been in this role a couple of years and time moves really quickly, I feel very new still. I think actually thinking about the change that I want to make and the good that I can bring, what that looks like and how to get there. I think it's very easy to sort of go from one thing to the next and then wake up one day and all of a sudden you're 10 years from retirement or something, which is not bad in itself. But I think actually understanding what I want out of life and out of my career, I think is the thing I'm probably navigating in a way. I don't think I'm looking at it full in the face yet. I think it's here and it's sort of creeping up on me a little bit. Yeah.
What excites you about what you're doing at the moment?
Every day is different. I work in amazing places. I've worked with colleagues who've been there 30, sometimes 40 years.
Wow.
And I have to ask them, does it ever get old? And they said no. It's being in these places kind of when we're close to the public, when they're quiet, it's a real privilege, really.
Absolutely.
I work with amazing people. That's actually probably the biggest change from working in architectural practice that I hadn't really thought about at the time, but that I love is that I don't really work with many other architects now. When you're in practice, you mostly work with architects.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas now I work with a lot of historians or press officers or people who are ex-military. My colleagues are beefeaters and ravens, and we have reverends who are my colleagues, and and I think working with this really broad range of people, I just love it, and I feel like every day I have an interesting conversation with someone.
It must be so interesting.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, and they find me interesting. I think when you work with other architects, you all get a bit bored of each other, but it's I sometimes say, oh, well, actually, I'm an architect, and I get quite a lot of respect for it, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
But
they're interested in you as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel pressure to adapt yourself or harden yourself at all, or have you in the past?
I don't so much now. I think working in the sort of heritage cultural sector, there's a much bigger diversity of people, I think, than working in architectural practice and the built environment generally. I sort of talk about architectural practice, but, we also work with contractors and other consultants and developers, And I think when I was in practice, definitely, and I think sometimes it's because the role models that you have, the people who are leading projects or commissioning work or in positions of power, they are by and large people who necessarily didn't look like me or who were men, and that was just who they were, And I think when you don't have the role models, you you don't know another way to be a leader. I think there's lots of kinds of leader, and knowing how to become a leader that's authentically yourself is really important. And I think it's probably a life's journey. I don't know if you ever crack it, but I think probably, particularly in some of my early interactions with, let's say, less forgiving contractors who you sort of turn up on a building site and they, A, think you're 16 years old, and B, that you know nothing, and you do have to be quite hard and firm. And you could do that in a way that's yourself. But I think probably initially I felt like maybe I was having to, harden or adapt myself to suit that environment. I think now, actually, I still work with contractors and all my contractors are lovely, I would say, for the record. But I think as you become more confident, as you become a little bit more sure of yourself, you can lean into your own skills a bit more and you start to emulate other people a little bit less, I think.
Mm.
Yeah.
What does success look like to you today?
I think it's something that's changed. I think when I was 20, success looked a certain way. And when I was 30, it looked different. And where I am now, I think it looks different again. And I think for me now, success is to do with authenticity in all aspects of your life. I think having freedom and also finding peace, and that's not to say to stand still and to be unambitious, but I think you can finding peace in how you are and how you interact with people and having the confidence to back yourself. And I think that's success. I always remember I worked with a really great associate architect in practice, and they kept giving him a promotion and they kept trying to get him to be a director, and he kept turning it down. And they kept saying, it comes with a big pay rise, it comes with all these perks. Why would you not want to be a director? And he was like, I don't want that job. He's like, I love where I am now. He's had a good work-life balance. He was doing work he loved with a team he loved. And he was like, I don't want any of the stuff that comes with being a director. And he kept turning it down. And I think for him, that was his success.
Yes.
He'd built the life he wanted, and he knew how to hold on to it. And whether some other people, being a director is what they think success looks like, whether or not they're happy when they get there. So I think I'm still figuring out what that looks like. But I think freedom and freedom and flexibility and being yourself, I think, is probably what I think success is at the moment for me. Yeah.
That's a great answer. So as a project manager, you're kind of naturally a leader, aren't you? Whether that's of projects or of people. What kind of leader do you think you are?
I think I'm a leader that leads with empathy. I don't ask people to do anything I wouldn't do myself. Whether or not I was capable of doing it is another matter.
Yeah.
I think it's a leader that listens to people and brings them along with them. I think people can play to their strengths. And I think if you're authentically yourself, it allows other people to show up as themselves as well. And I think you get the best out of people when they feel free to be themselves, and that's not to bring all of your weird all of the time into work. But, it's like I like to make people laugh in my meetings, and I think you get the most out of them when they're relaxed. And they feel that also, I think showing that you don't know everything and that you do make mistakes, and that asking questions allows other people the space to feel like they can ask questions and make mistakes. And it makes for a much more open and collaborative environment, because none of us know all of it,
No, absolutely.
And I find some of my best design team meetings are when I might ask, and I'll say, like, can I ask a really basic question? And actually it's the question that half the room wanted to ask but didn't want to say, and we get to the root of the issue between us. So I think that's where I am, and I'm leading a lot of quite big change at work in terms of the way that we work and modernising our facilities, which sounds really mundane, but change management in an organisation that some people have worked there for 40 years, it can be really hard and gruelling. And I think I've managed it by listening to people and handling issues sensitively. I think if I came to it maybe in a way where if I had hardened too much and wasn't really myself and I was dictating change to people, we would have hit brick walls and it wouldn't have happened,
So if you could go back and speak to 10-year-old Lisa, what would you say to her?
Keep being weird, keep being a weirdo. And actually, when you get older, people love to stand out, people love to be remembered. Generally speaking, people don't want to feel like part of the pack. There's obviously something as feeling like you're part of a group or part of a tribe and feeling commonality. But I think particularly when I was 10, I was sort of I don't know, you're sort of at that age where you're interacting with lots of different types of kids from different areas. And I grew up on a farm, and my mum was very sort of, very sort of pragmatic and sort of roamed outside a lot. But then you meet people who don't live like that, and it can make you feel quite othering. And I think actually just holding on to some of the weird and making more fake potions in your back garden and things like that, and hanging on to the kind of the joy and the whimsy, and actually also letting her know that it works out, and it will work out because it does.
What kind of farm was it?
It was a small holding, so we had. It wasn't a working farm. We just had a weird collection of animals mostly. So we had about 3 cows and 2 sheep and a couple of chickens and some peacocks inexplicably at one point. My mum sort of collected rogue animals that didn't have a home. So it wasn't, it was quite weird. And we had sort of horses, and I'm making it sound, it wasn't very, it was not unglamorous, but it wasn't particularly glamorous. We used to make hay and drive tractors. And
yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
And if you look forward to you when you, at the end of your career, what do you hope when you look back, from that to now and before, that you'll have achieved?
I hope that I will have left things better than I found them. So whether that's still at historic royal palaces or somewhere else, the work that I do now is about leaving things better than we found it. And I also mean that, I think, in terms of the people that I've met. I love mentoring people. I love teaching people things that I know. I think knowledge can be so hard won, and sometimes there's so much inexperience that I love being able to kind of share things with people and mistakes I've made. And I would love to be able to look back and see younger people that I've spoken to that have come into their own and that have developed in some way, I think, and to see that I've made a positive change in people's lives. And I'm not talking about, global sweeping change, but I think small things done meaningfully, I think, have a big impact. Yeah.
So the mentoring that you're doing, is that in a sort of official capacity or just with people you're working with? How does it work?
It's just really with people I'm working with. So when I was in my previous practice, we did a little bit of work with, we had some work experience programs that I sort of managed. Whereas now it's mostly, sometimes it's my consultants. I'm working with some architects, and one of them is doing his part 3. And so because I'm doing contract administration on quite a big construction project, he was asking me questions about the contract. So I just sat down and went through things with him, which is what I would have loved someone to have done for me when I did my part 3, But it's mostly kind of informal. And actually at HRP, we have an amazing apprenticeship program that we're really proud of. So we've got a project support apprentice at the moment. And so that's really great that we've tried to kind of open up new routes into heritage.
They're coming in at 18?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Exactly. And we've got them across all parts of the organisation as well. So we've got, a solicitor apprentice and QS and maintenance and public engagement and interpretation and all aspects of the business. We've got these apprentices.
So they're working 4 days and...
Yeah. I think they generally work 4 days and they go to college 1 day a week. And I think we've just taken our second cohort in, I think. So I think this year we've just advertised for our 3rd year, I think is correct.
Wow.
But it's quite a big thing for us. And we're also trying to invest in heritage skills as well. I think we're looking to fund a bricklaying apprentice that would work with one of our sort of contractors that we work with a lot, because a lot of the heritage skills are really at risk. And there's, incredible people who are sort of at the end of their career who've got all this lived knowledge. Yeah. And I think we're struggling to find people who are passing that on. Yeah. So that because we need those skills still.
Absolutely. We definitely do.
Yeah.
Definitely do. So as you know, the podcast is called Places She Shapes. So I've got some shaping moments questions around the title of the podcast. So the first one is places. So you go into a room and everyone you've ever met is in that room, dead or alive, excluding your immediate family. Who would you look for first?
Wow, it depends what you mean by immediate family. I think probably my grandma. I feel more and more like when I'm looking for peace in my life, I think about the things she did and how she lived her life. And I would love to see her again and share some of the things I've done. And she always encouraged my kind of weirdness, And when I dyed my hair blue, she was all for it. Cool. When I first got a tattoo, I tried to hide it from her and she saw it and then loved it, I think I would look for her first, I think. Yeah.
And the she question is, who's the woman that you turn to for advice and why?
I have two very dear friends that I've known for a very long time. And actually, the one friend it's a professional coach come solicitor. And I actually called her I got a cab on the way here and I called her because I'd been running around all day and pinging for meetings, and I took 3 work calls in the cab, and I thought, I'm so wired, and I thought, I just need to calm. And I was like, I'll phone Vicky. I was like, she'll talk to me, and I hear her voice and I instantly feel calmer. We've been friends for 30 years or something like that, and she knows me very well. She's very level-headed. She's extremely compassionate. And we can be completely open with each other. And I think having friendships like that is really invaluable. And then recently, I've got 2 fab colleagues that I work with, and we basically all 3 of us got one job essentially 2 years ago. And I'm really fortunate that they are, again, wonderful women, and we really, really support each other. It's a really sort of steep learning curve coming to work for HRP. There's a lot of intricacies about the way we do stuff and doing work in our palaces, and it's such a big organisation. But between the 3 of us, we were able to navigate it together. So I think it's funny, if you'd have asked me 2 years ago, like, oh, are you looking for 2 new close friends? I'd have said, no, I'm fine. But actually, I wouldn't be without them now.
That's great. And the final question is, how would you shape your ideal day?
Well, that's a really good question. I think there's a version where I'm at work and there's a version where I'm not.
Give me both. Go
on. I think starting the day with a good coffee and being outside and hearing the birds I adore. I think coming to work, seeing some of my favourite people, having the time and space to do work, but then also, I think, making good decisions and seeing good progress. And maybe there's something fun happening at work. We had a gun salute at work the other day for state opening of Parliament, or seeing the carol service at Christmas in the Chapel Royal is always amazing, So I think seeing things like that remind me why I come to work and I do the work I do. I think if I'm not at work, it might be going for a run and cooking myself a nice breakfast, maybe doing some gardening. And probably speaking with a friend, I think, and feeling like the day is long and that there's time to do what you love and to think about the people you love, I think, and probably end it with a glass of wine.
Sounds great. Sounds like a great day. Thank you so much. It's been amazing. Thank you.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. If you've enjoyed this conversation, follow Places She Shapes wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss the rest of season 3.